I was born in Lithuania. When I was 20 years old, during the war, I left my country. So there for 4 years, lived in Germany in 1949, and almost 50 came to the United States.
In talking with my mom about her past, quite honestly, she's fairly guarded about it.
She just did not talk about her past, about what happened in Lithuania or what happened in anywhere else.
I don't cry over spilled beans. Usually what comes, that comes, you have to overcome.
Her life story is so unique that she creates her art through her experiences in life.
Living through wars and everything, I saw that the weak ones broke and the strong ones who could take everything survived, because they were during the war many times. There was famine, we didn't have anything to eat, and you had to survive, we had to improvise. I remember living in Austria that time, just right after the war, and I was studying at Innsbruck University. And there was no transportation. So lived in the mountains and go down. It took 1 hour in the dark. You go, but just do it. You survive, you do it. Otherwise, who will do for you? You just can't complain. If you want to do it, you do it.
My mom has always had a philosophy of looking forward.
What we need to do tomorrow to make progress.
So many people love to talk about the past and tell stories. She's always talking about what she's going to do tomorrow, the new exhibits coming up in the museum, what's happening this year, what's going to happen next year, talking about her next piece of art. She's always been forward-thinking and always looks to the future.
When I came to the United States, it was a pop art, the modern art, it was just a rage. They discovered something new and everybody was doing something completely different than all these realistic paintings. Naturally, I have to jump on a wagon too.
Those were the days, I guess, in the late 60s and early 70s when Janina became involved in the Hyde Park Art Center.
I walked in and said, well, I would like to be a part of your community. And it gave me a need to be together with other artists, other creative people who felt the same way. It was exciting times, but I painted for maybe 5 or 6 years, and I constantly changed themes and was unsatisfactory.
She went through different phases of her art, but I think that she had a very significant period of folk-type art, or reminiscent of folk images.
Ira and I traveled. I went to markets. I went to museums, and I saw this folk art and what people did.
I think my mom's creativity really emanates out of what she observes.
I noticed that each country has their own patterns, their own color schemes. And that was very, very impressive because I loved the primitive arts and folk arts that time. And that changed my outlook. And I said, I have such a rich background too. I can do that too, same way, with beautiful colors and everything. And so I started to paint imaginary rugs. And from that evolved into weaving tapestries. And when I started weaving, as I said, that's it. I was hooked. When I started weaving, it just clicked. I felt this is exactly what I needed because I'm a very tactile person. I had to touch things. And then this satisfied me very much, and I started weaving. It's just labor of love. Just spend hours and hours and hours. This piece, what I'm doing now, I call it Purple Mountains. Why is it Purple Mountains? I don't know.
And I've asked her the question, now what does this piece mean? And always the answer comes back the same way. It's however you see it. She has her own vision, but she doesn't necessarily want to share it. She'll give you some insight to why she created it, but she always said the beauty of art is that everybody interprets it in their own way.
Here, let it rest, and then making the light color and some dark, and then I'll put a peace dove right above flying these purple mountains.
My mother really does not like to sit still. Even through difficult times, she's never the person just to sit and wait for things to happen. She likes to make things happen.
30 years ago, I reused my children's old blue jeans. I made into beautiful rugs. You knot, row, then you weave about 5, 6 rows, and you knot again. And you see here from this side, woven, knotted, woven, and becomes like a beautiful rug. Everybody likes these. And when Lithuania became independent, I decided to help my country and establish art center in Kėdainiai, and to establish a different kind of museum, not repository of things, but living, that we could have shows and introduce new art forms, more like a culture center.
I never thought that they would support the idea of an art museum. It just, culture, while it's there in Lithuania, it had basically been in Vilnius and in Kaunas. So it was very unusual, I think, to open a museum in a small town like Kėdainiai.
The culture mostly centers around big cities, and the smaller cities are completely neglected. And I felt very strong about that the small cities should get the same share of culture as the big cities.
I think it's had an earth-shattering impact on Kėdainiai. Kėdainiai, from my first time visiting, was a town that was almost forgotten.
Ir pardavėjų, kurios dirba tik tai parduotuvėje, ar virėjos, tikrai negalvojame, kad jos domisi menu, kad jos gali eiti į muziejų ir į parodas, į atidarymus ir domėtis, bet atsirado ir tokių Kėdainiuose.
This is a museum that doesn't come with preconceived notions of what it's trying to do with the art or trying to solve some other agenda.
One of the things that's unique about the museum is that this is the first nonprofit organization in the country of Lithuania.
People were used to always, the culture came from above, always.
Back during the Soviet occupation, the only type of art that was allowed was showing workers striving to dig as much coal out of the ground, and only approved art. And
all artists came from big cities. Here is just opposite, that people become like members of a community. They become like a part owner of the culture.
By what we did, actually going out and asking for memberships, we wanted people to really feel a tight connection to the museum, and more than just stopping in once or twice a year. Once they were part of it and a member of it, even though the membership fees are very modest, we felt it was important, therefore they would get behind it in a much greater way.
My mom's vision is to involve the community. She wants the museum to be a living, breathing, evolving entity that can help develop Kėdainiai and help restore the great artistic heritage of Lithuania.
Kadangi daug užsieniečių atvažiuoja pas mus į muziejų parodas, turi kaip iš Amerikos, tai važiuoja iš didelių miestų pas mus parodų žiūrėti, iš Kauno, iš Vilniaus, nes nėra tokių įdomių parodų. Aišku, gal labai gyrėmės, kad jau čia tokių parodų nėra, bet tikrai labai įdomių mes parodų turime.
Projekto tikslas tai yra sukurti muziejaus edukacinę programą, kadangi mes turime Janinos Mankutės Marks daugybę darbų, visą kolekciją tekstilės, tapybos.
Man teko piešti ta prasme, kuriuos mačiau, daiktus įvairius, įdomius ir nebūtinai, kurie man patiko.
People really feel a part of it, and that's the important thing, people, instead of dead artwork.
I think being a member of that museum, even if you live many hours away in Vilnius, it still means a lot. People belong to something that's really part of their country and helps them feel that Lithuania's independence will be permanent, which we all hope for.
I was very touched when we first went to the museum. I didn't expect as much out of the opening, and many dignitaries came by and local people shook my hand and said it was so fabulous. But the moment that really meant something to me was a gentleman, I think in his late 70s, came up crying and hugging me and telling me, you don't realize what this has done to the community in Lithuania, that his brother had been deported by the Soviets for making unauthorized art, and his feeling that we're helping bringing back a Lithuanian artistic, independent artistic tradition was just very meaningful to me and helped dedicate myself and my brothers to making this museum a success.
I don't make any profit, but it gives me joy. And then I feel I just owe something to my country, because I was one that established, so I have to give back something, and it's a must.
Vai duoda legea